Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the lineage masters. The supreme subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta. Next, we will discuss the Platform Sutra. Today we will talk about how the Sixth Patriarch's dissemination of the Dharma and benefiting of beings was nearing completion. During our study of the Platform Sutra this time, on the one hand, because I have not received the authentic oral transmission, there are many aspects I do not understand, but on the other hand, from the beginning of the Sixth Patriarch's teaching and benefiting beings, through his realization and practice, all the way to the ultimate perfection of his enlightened activities, he always used the Dharma to benefit sentient beings. At the same time, we will also discuss the principles of how to rely on a spiritual friend. Therefore, throughout this process, through the lifelong teachings of the Sixth Patriarch and his life experiences, we can also reflect on our own situations, including seeking the Dharma, relying on a guru, and how to benefit sentient beings, as well as our responsibilities after the guru passes away, including the oral transmission of the Dharma and other related aspects. To do down, I feel that this time personally, I have taken the opportunity while teaching the Platform Sutra to say what often needs to be said. Whether directly, indirectly, or through subtle hints, I have already shared it with everyone. Perhaps many of you noticed certain things right on the spot, or perhaps some things were not necessarily noticed immediately. In the future, through our DVDs and written transcripts, as well as my personal exchanges with many Buddhists and the handing down of my own transmissions, there are many principles that, taking this opportunity, I have taught to you in direct, indirect, obvious, and unobvious ways. So I feel that this time, even though I did not speak perfectly, it has been very convenient to express what needed to be said here. Thus, I have also given everyone an explanation. Next, we will continue our discussion. Over the past few days, we discussed the 5 great lineages of the Sixth Patriarch, or rather the 5 great lineages of the Zen school. Today we will talk about the following passage. The Master further said, "Good friends, each of you should purify your mind and listen to me teach the Dharma." The Sixth Patriarch repeatedly told his disciples, "Good friends, each one of you should first purify your motivation. If you want to listen to the Dharma, your mind must be pure at the beginning. Your mind must also be pure in the middle, and it needs to be pure at the end as well." Words of my perfect teacher also mentions the 3 defects, 6 stains, and 5 wrong ways of remembering. There are many methods to purify and cleanse one's mind while listening to the Dharma. Once your mind is pure and focused, I can teach, so listen to me teach the Dharma. As for the following teachings, I can only share them with you after your mind is pure and focused. If you wish to attain omniscience, you must understand the Samadhi of One Mark and the Samadhi of One Practice. If you wish to attain the omniscience and wisdom of the Buddha, you must fully understand the Samadhi of One Mark. Next, we will explain what the Samadhi of One Mark is, as well as the Samadhi of One Practice. These 2 samadhis are also very important, because wisdom arises from meditative concentration. Only after attaining meditative concentration can the wisdom of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas arise. Even our worldly wisdom requires the mind to calm down first. For example, studying at a university is only possible when the mind is calm. For our Dharma friends currently engaged in listening and contemplating, some people, in their minds, apart from the motivation to benefit sentient beings, do not have a mess of various thoughts of attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Their minds are in a completely pure state. In such moments, you have the opportunity to generate the wisdom of listening, contemplating, and meditating. If you spend all day thinking about others, such as worldly relationships or feelings of anger, constantly thinking about worldly matters, then it is impossible to generate wisdom. Therefore, wisdom will grow in a very pure and fertile mind. What is the Samadhi of One Practice? If in all places you do not dwell in marks, and what is the Samadhi of One Practice? And within these marks you give rise to neither hate nor love, and have neither grasping nor rejecting, nor do you think of things like benefit, loss, success, or failure, but are peaceful, serene, open, and detached. This is called the Samadhi of One Mark. What is the Samadhi of One Mark? No matter the phenomenon or the situation, you do not dwell in marks, meaning you do not cling to this mark or that mark. In other words, amid such marks, although there are appearances, you will not generate extreme anger and hatred toward unpleasant objects, nor will you generate love and deep affection toward pleasant objects. Since there is neither hate nor love, there can be no grasping at the good or rejecting the bad. You also do not think about beneficial actions that favor you or matters of success and failure that offer you no benefit. Everything remains in a state of joy, leisure, peace, and tranquility. Everything is open and detached, and you simply do what needs to be done. Without any grasping, clinging, or rejecting, everything is very relaxed, free, and natural. Generally, many practitioners of the Zen school, when encountering any worldly situations involving attachment, aversion, or ignorance, are not like us, clinging heavily to marks. The moment we cling to marks, extreme anger and attachment naturally arise. Once such a mind is generated, in our physical actions and speech, we begin to grasp, reject, affirm, and negate, which in turn leads to various kinds of problems. But if one has entered the Samadhi of one mark, these issues will not occur. This is the first one, the Samadhi of one mark. If in all places, whether walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, you maintain a pure, straightforward mind, without leaving the place of enlightenment, you truly realize the Pure Land. This is called the Samadhi of One Practice. The second is the Samadhi of One Practice. What is the Samadhi of One Practice? It means in all places and in all areas of training, no matter how, anytime, anywhere, and in any state, in all activities of walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, during these four main comportments, the mind remains exceptionally pure, clear, and straightforward. There is no craving, exaggeration, grasping, or rejecting, and resting unmoving within the sanctuary of such a mind can truly be called the Pure Land. When the mind is pure, the land is pure, as stated in the Vimalakirti Sutra. Actually, walking, standing, sitting, and lying down can express a state of Zen. In our great perfection, during walking, standing, sitting, and lying down, we maintain an awakened state. This is called the Samadhi of One Practice. It does not require you to sit in a quiet place. You can remain unforgetful at all times, though this is not something everyone can achieve. In the beginning, there are certainly some difficulties, but I think that upon reaching a certain level, you can manage it in various situations. As Buddhists, it is not always necessary to be one-pointedly focused. For Buddhists today, sometimes certain places are too superficial. As for truly delving into the teachings and sutras, none of this is present. They merely do some charity and superficial good deeds. Some seem almost too quiet, like some elderly monks from the Shravakayana tradition in the mountains. Some lay practitioners today are the same, remaining completely still and highly focused. Of course, if you can stay this focused for your whole life, I praise you too. But actually, it is not always like that. It is only temporary. Therefore, we must not give up opportunities that truly aid the dissemination of Dharma, benefiting beings and our own practice. This is also somewhat related to our education. Some great masters, Khenpo and Khenmos, use a method of guiding people that relies entirely on one-pointed focus. They believe only listening, contemplating, and meditating are necessary, and outside of listening, contemplating, and meditating, everything else is completely meaningless. As long as it departs from this format, everything is categorically denied. I feel this is unnecessary. Every sentient being has different capacities, and their Dharma methods and behaviors vary as well. It is precisely because of this that Shakyamuni Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma 3 times, expounding 84,000 Dharma methods for the same reason. Therefore, as Buddhists, we should not be like what I sometimes describe as certain specialists in Western medicine, where an eye specialist doesn't understand ears, and an ear specialist doesn't understand noses. Each specialization is so narrow that when a little flexibility is needed, they are at a complete loss. No one can do anything. To examine a person's entire body, 100 such doctors might not suffice, because surgeons don't know internal medicine, and vice versa. Even within internal organs, there are many specialists just for the liver. As Buddhists, while it's fine to specialize in tantric teachings or Pure Land, sometimes we must be able to adapt to different situations. Therefore, I hope our Dharma teachers realize that in the process of education, the way you cultivate students is truly significant. After many years of training, what kind of people will they become? Will they be truly useful to the Dharma and to society? I feel that for Buddhism to survive in this world today, we must at least be people who have some positive influence on society. First, teach through your own actions, then through your words. If you have neither and only speak eloquently, likely no one will recognize your worth. Therefore, as Buddhists, if you want to achieve something, you must act. How should you act? Lead by example, starting with your own body and mind. This is very important. I think many of us are lacking in the Samadhi of One Practice. Perhaps some think that if everyone just chants Om Mani Padme Hum for their entire lives, that would suffice, but I'm afraid that's not enough. Our society is incredibly diverse. To guide and liberate all these people, we need variety. Furthermore, we Buddhists shouldn't just rely on others for our livelihood every day. The other day, I saw many of our practitioners here being very capable, coming out to clean and do work themselves. This made me very happy. Why? For instance, here in the Larung Valley, if our entire Sangha just waited to be fed without lifting a finger, that simply would not work. If we are fed once or twice, and then every day thereafter, with so many people, we would become a burden on society. This applies not only to the Sangha at our academy, but also to many of our lay practitioners today. In your families, in society, and among those around you, you should truly aim to help others, for instance, helping children. I must truly go out into society and share the Buddhist view of happiness with many. By doing so, we will gradually have a positive impact. It is perfectly fine for our principles to spread into society bit by bit. I hope that in the future, when our Dharma teachers train new talent, they should focus on every detail, our so-called virtue, wisdom, and physical health. Our wisdom is vital, but sometimes the body also needs exercise. What kind of exercise? I'm not asking you to do calisthenics every day, but we still need to move sometimes. Don't be too lazy or indolent. If we are idle all day, Buddhists will eventually lose society's respect. If society does not respect us, the ideas we try to convey will face obstacles and limitations. This is the meaning of the Samadhi of One Practice mentioned here. If one possesses these two samadhis, it is like the earth having seeds which are stored and nurtured until the fruit ripens. The Samadhi of One Mark and the Samadhi of One Practice are just like this. If a person possesses these two types of samadhis discussed above, it is like sowing seeds in the ground. They gradually grow and slowly mature. Once they have matured, they bear fruit. The samadhis of One Practice and One Mark work in the same way. Whether they are present in a place or within a person's mind stream, you must first plant such seeds. When we engage in listening and contemplation, education is very important. This is true in the secular world as well. A teacher's words and deeds determine the kind of students they will produce. We see this with many college students today. They follow what the teacher emphasizes. For example, if a teacher frequently refutes traditional culture, the students they train will all go out and refute traditional culture as well. If a teacher greatly admires and is interested in Western culture, the disciples and students they train will be the same. So we must start learning bit by bit. My teaching of the Dharma today is like timely rain, moistening the great earth. Your Buddha nature is like seeds, which upon meeting this moisture will all sprout and grow. He says, my teaching of the Dharma today is like timely rain, moistening the great earth. When rain moistens the earth, any planted seeds will immediately, especially in springtime, whether they are flower or tree seeds, they will all slowly start to grow. The same principle applies to your Buddha nature. Every one of you has an excellent Buddha field. By teaching the Dharma, I am providing nourishment. The seeds of Buddha in your mind stream gradually encounter and merge with this Dharma nourishment. In fact, receiving Dharma teachings and empowerments carries meanings of irrigating, cleansing, removing obstacles and nurturing. Teaching the Dharma serves the same purpose. The seeds of Buddha nature in your mind stream will gradually mature. Do you want to jump? Do you? It's gone, right? All right, we'll use it as background music. Next, it says that the Sixth Patriarch's teaching at that time provided this nourishment, allowing the seeds of virtue to arise and sprout. It has this effect. Those who grasp my message will surely attain Bodhi. Those who follow my practice will certainly realize the wonderful fruit. Listen to my verse, he says, regarding the content I have taught you today, through my transmission, you will surely attain Bodhi. Furthermore, if you practice according to these teachings, you will certainly attain the wonderful fruit and achievement. Next, he conveys the previous points in the form of a verse. The mind ground contains all seeds, with universal rain, all sprout. Once the flower of sudden enlightenment is realized, the Bodhi fruit forms of itself. Mind Ground compares the mind to the earth containing seeds of virtue. By teaching the Dharma, this rain acts as an external condition. Then, the sprouts gradually begin to grow, slowly flowering and bearing fruit. The flower of sudden enlightenment appears, and finally, the fruit of Bodhi grows naturally. As ordinary beings, we are like desolate, uncultivated land. Without the watering and nourishment from a spiritual friend's rain, no matter how many eons or how much time passes, our seeds of virtue could never mature on their own. For the true sudden enlightenment in our lives to flower and bear fruit, we deeply need the guidance of a spiritual friend and the nourishment of the Dharma's dew. This is why masters throughout history are so grateful to their lineage gurus. In the long days of this cycle of samsara, had we not met them and received their wise instructions, it's true that although we have the seed of Tathagata-garha, and these seeds of virtue exist in a hidden or latent way, they could never be developed. For those of us with the karmic connection to meet and hear the Dharma, it is a great honor, though many might not realize it. In the secular world, when we encounter worldly gains, we consider ourselves very lucky. When we come across worldly treasures, status, or wealth, we feel we have great merit. Yet when we encounter the Dharma or the opportunity for listening and meditation, we don't always cherish it as much. After the Master had spoken the verse, he said, "The Dharma is not dual, and the mind is the same. The path is pure and without marks." After the Sixth Patriarch finished this verse, he continued, "My Dharma has always been the teaching of sudden enlightenment. It is non-dual, free from the duality of subject and object. There is no real or artificial grasping of a subject, nor is there entering or abandoning an object. Thus, all is pure. Indeed, as the Dharma is non-dual, the mind that perceives and clings to it must also be non-dual. When both the object and the mind are non-dual, the path one practices is surely pure and without any marks. You should be careful not to meditate on stillness, nor to empty your minds. This mind is fundamentally pure. There is nothing to grasp or reject. Each of you must strive on your own, go well as circumstances allow. All you disciples must pay close attention. Do not always assume that only stillness is true practice. Many Chan practitioners today believe that as long as the mind is quiet, they have reached the state of Chan. Actually, that is not the case. The true state of Chan can be found in walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. It can be realized while speaking, in any place or situation. So do not think the so-called state of Chan is limited to being fixed in a state of quietude or remaining in calm abiding. It's not that you only have realization when you are in formal meditation. At the same time, do not think that focusing on mere emptiness, where everything is absent, is the ultimate realization. In fact, these points clearly explain the obstacles and pitfalls in Chan practice. What should we focus on? It is the fact that our mind is fundamentally pure. As taught in the Supreme Tantric teachings, the mind is primordially pure. Once we truly recognize this primordial purity through the Guru's guidance, there is nothing to grasp and nothing to reject. It has always been this way. It is not that recognizing it today creates some brand new state. No, it has always been so. If you strive to apply yourself within this realization, then your future path will be bright. Regarding all post-meditative activity, go well as circumstances allow. When we are in deep meditative absorption, it is a state of complete detachment from everything. Then, in the post-meditative daily life, we follow circumstances naturally. In a state free from attachment, greed, or anger, just let things be. This is the true practice of Chan. The Sixth Patriarch repeatedly emphasized this regarding how a practitioner transforms everything into the path. In this regard, I find it very similar to the instructions of many lineage masters of the secret mantra, especially Guru Rinpoche. At that time, the disciples bowed and withdrew. This is how it was in the Han region in the past, bowing to the Guru upon arrival and bowing again before leaving. On the 8th day of the 7th month, the master suddenly said to his followers, "I wish to return to Xinzhou. Prepare the boat and oars quickly." When the 8th day of the 7th month arrived, he suddenly called them, "I now wish to return quickly to where Guowen Monastery stands." He had already prepared for a stupa to be built there. He told them to prepare a boat for him as soon as possible. The term used here refers to a boat and its oars. At that time, travel was by water, so everything had to be ready. The assembly pleaded earnestly for him to stay. The master said, All Buddhas appeared and yet showed nirvana. What comes must go. This is an eternal principle. This physical frame of mine must return somewhere. The assembly present pleaded with him to stay, firmly wishing for the master to remain in the world for a long time. They had observed his speech and conduct, and as mentioned before, he was set to depart in the 8th month. They begged him not to go and to stay there, but at this point the master would not agree. He said that even the Buddhas of the past appeared in this world, yet displayed nirvana to demonstrate the truth of impermanence. Whatever arrives must depart, whatever is born must die. This is the natural way of things. It is a very normal phenomenon. So this physical frame of mine, this dreamlike body, must eventually return to a certain place. This too has significance. He had his destination and his own preparations. No matter how they tried to persuade him to stay, it was of no use. When the time truly comes for a master to depart, it is as omniscient Longchenpa described, certain causes come to an end. Whether we look at the great masters of India, Tibet, or the eminent monks of the Han region, when the karmic connection between guru and disciple concludes, no amount of pleading can change it. As a great master, he considers his future work for the Dharma and his diligent practice. A life has different stages and plans. It cannot always end in the same form. Some masters might spend their entire lives teaching and expounding sutras, while others might have several distinct phases. When the Sixth Patriarch was ready to enter nirvana, nothing could stop him. He said, "I have my destination and my goal." The assembly said, "After the master leaves, when will you return?" The disciples said, "Since the master insists on not staying with us here, then after you go, you should eventually return." There are two meanings here. One is that they were trying to create a positive connection, that even if you leave, you must surely come back sooner or later. The other more hidden meaning was asking about his reincarnation. When would your emanation or tulku return? That is my own estimation of their intent. The master said, "Fallen leaves return to their roots. When you came, there was nothing to say." He used a worldly metaphor, fallen leaves returning to their roots. When leaves fall, they return to the base of the tree. Xinzhou was his hometown, and for him to go there is what we often call returning to one's roots. Many great masters are like this. Some pass away elsewhere, while others choose to leave this world in their native land. Biographies of past masters show this pattern frequently. They asked when he would return, but the time of return is uncertain. It depends on conditions. So the Sixth Patriarch did not give a date. He could not say when he would return in that same life, and indeed he never came back in that form. As for his reincarnation returning after a few days, like some Tibetan tulkus, he didn't say that either. It's not like the 6th Dalai Lama, who hinted in his love songs that the white crane would return from Litang. People only later realized the 7th Dalai Lama was born in Litang. But here, he gave no explicit answer about how he would return. Actually, the disciples asked very good and necessary questions. Disciples without enough faith often fail to ask what they should. Some are just too afraid of the guru. His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche used to say, "We shouldn't be overly afraid. If you are too afraid, you'll never ask the important things." His Holiness said that in his own time, following his guru, he was extremely nervous every time they met, which left him with many regrets after his guru departed. But these disciples of the Sixth Patriarch asked everything they needed to. They asked again, "To whom will the treasury of the true Dharma eye be transmitted?" The master said, "Those with the way will get it. Those with no mind will understand it." So this treasury of the true Dharma eye of Chan, this treasure that serves as the eyes for all beings, to whom will it be passed? Since you are leaving, who will be the 7th Patriarch? Even if not named 7th Patriarch, who are the lineage heirs? The 10 great disciples, led by Fahai, were all waiting for an answer. I think the master's answer was excellent. He said, "Those with the way will get it. Those with no mind will understand it." Anyone with a certain level of realization on the path has already received my transmission. There's no need for me to announce I pass it to him one by one. Those with no mind will understand it, meaning those free from attachment. They have already mastered the principles I have taught. I find the 6th Patriarch's final transmission very similar to His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok's. When His Holiness passed away, there were many rumors claiming he had passed the lineage to this or that person. There were all sorts of claims. Of course, while he was alive, he did praise certain masters and gurus, either directly or indirectly, but in reality, there was no single designated successor. Because for the Dharma to continue through the generations, sometimes it is passed to a single heir, as it was before the Sixth Patriarch. Like with Mipam Rinpoche or Omniscient Longchenpa, following the Nyingma Dzogchen tradition, it was a direct succession, but later it spread widely and there were many realized beings. However, these realized masters were not necessarily labeled as the next generation patriarch. The Sixth Patriarch's method of transmission is very much in line with how His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok passed on the Dharma. Therefore, when we propagate the Dharma, I believe that in the future, including many of the teachers, Khenpos and Khenmos present here, some of you will certainly make significant contributions to the cause of benefiting sentient beings. Some may be obscure now, seemingly unremarkable. Even when His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok was alive, many of his disciples were unknown. Now, some of them are bringing great benefit to countless beings. When a guru is alive and surrounded by many disciples, it is difficult to predict their future achievements in spreading the Dharma. But in fact, the guru has already spoken in an indirect way. Whoever attains the wisdom and compassion within his mind stream will naturally become his successor, it goes without saying. If one hasn't realized the power of wisdom and compassion from the lineage, then no matter how much praise and promotion he receives, not only will he fail to be a true successor, but he might even harm the teachings. Those with the way will get it, those with no mind will understand it. This was the Master's way of entrustment. I hope many of our fellow practitioners here today, when you nurture disciples and the time comes for you to leave this world, will consider this. If you specifically designate someone and say, my successor is so-and-so, even if they seem excellent, then people change over time. If they eventually harm the Dharma, it might even cause others to doubt the Guru. So I think the Sixth Patriarchs, those with the way will get it, is a wonderful approach. Those who possess the way will inevitably receive the transmission, and people will gradually come to recognize them. Another asked, will there be any trouble later on? This refers to the Master's teachings and his future legacy. The question was whether the Master's Chan school and his future activities would encounter any disasters or obstacles. To this the Master replied, the Master said, 5 or 6 years after my death, a man will come to take my head. Hear my prophecy. With the head one supports parents, for the mouth one needs food. The disaster of man is met, with Yang and Liu as officials. He said that 5 or 6 years after his passing, someone would come to decapitate his body, because the Sixth Patriarch's whole body relic was preserved, and such relics are very significant. However, regarding whole body relics, His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok once mentioned that he did not wish for his body to be kept, nor would he allow a memorial stupa to be built. He often spoke of a story from words of my perfect teacher. An outsider built a stupa, and later, whenever the living performed good or bad deeds, a rain of burning iron fell, causing immeasurable suffering. Therefore, in the lineage of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok, masters like Thubga Rinpoche did not particularly encourage building memorial stupas. So he predicted that in 5 or 6 years, someone would try to take the head of his remains. At that time, he gave this somewhat cryptic prophecy. Guru Rinpoche's prophecies are often like this, not entirely direct or obvious. They might just mention certain names or times in passing. With the head, one supports parents. Head refers to the patriarch's physical head. Above, on, implies veneration, as many great masters have explained. Perhaps that is the case, I don't fully understand it myself, but it is explained this way in some ancient commentaries. Supporting parents means providing for them as one would for one's own parents. The meaning is that after his departure, some would treat his head with devotion. Back then, there was a man from Goryeo named Kim Daibi who wanted to steal the patriarch's head and take it to his homeland. Whether it was modern-day Korea or the north, he wanted to venerate it there. He hired a man named Zhang Jingman to commit the theft. To feed his family, for the mouth one needs food, he accepted 20,000 cash. For the sake of money and food to support his family, he came to cut off the head. This was the disaster of man. Met means encounter, and man refers to that man, Jingman. It seems that based on the Master's prophecy, they were already on alert. He was caught, and at that time there were 2 officials involved. One named Yang, and one named Liu. One was the county magistrate, the other the chief justice. In the end, they decided to release the thief, Zhang Jingman. He could have been sentenced to death, but they set him free. Later, everyone felt that the Master indeed possessed great prophetic wisdom. The events that occurred 5 or 6 years later had already been foretold when his disciples asked him. The master's whole body relic survived many trials, including the Cultural Revolution. There are various accounts of what happened. In Shi Zhongxun's biography, it's mentioned that he helped protect it. Many stories online describe how the relic was protected during that time. Perhaps these accounts are true. Regardless, the relic has existed until this very day. Regarding whole body relics, I've thought about it before. When I pass away, even though our lineage masters weren't keen on it, if in the future, whether it's now or many years from now, I pass away, it would be wonderful if my remains could be kept to encourage life release. I've had this thought many times. Personally, keeping such a body might not be beneficial for oneself, according to the teachings of His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok. But if in the future it could inspire many people to perform life release and benefit sentient beings, then having remains or not might not matter much. I once went to pay my respects to the Sixth Patriarch's whole body relic. There are many legends. I read various historical records at the time. Some say the internal organs were stolen later on. There are all kinds of stories, but in any case, these are things we might all think about in the future. I'm nobody special, so please don't go around spreading rumors about this, but one can't help but reflect on future events in this way. There is another prophecy below. He also said, 70 years after my departure, 2 bodhisattvas will come from the east, one a monk and the other a layman. Together they will flourish and establish my school, restoring the monasteries and making the lineage prosper. The second prophecy is as follows. 70 years after he leaves the world, 2 bodhisattvas will come from the east, one ordained and one lay. They will begin to propagate the Chan school and establish his core tenets. At the same time, they will restore the Sangharamas, rebuilding the temples, and they will continue to flourish the transmission of the Dharma. There are different theories about who these 2 were. Some say the monk was Chan Master Huangbo, the layman was Pei Shu, a very famous figure during the Tang dynasty. Judging by their ages, they seem to fit the description well. Another theory suggests the monk was Chan Master Mazu Daoyi, and the layman was the famous layman Pang of the Tang dynasty. His entire family attained realization, each exhibiting a different state. One said practice is very difficult, another said it is extremely easy. His daughter said, practice is neither difficult nor easy. There are 3 verses representing 3 different levels of instruction. For different beings, practice might be hard, easy, or neither hard nor easy. There are various interpretations. Anyway, there was a prophecy about the growth of the Chan school over those 70 years. The disciples asked, we do not know how many generations of Buddhas and Patriarchs there have been since the beginning. We pray for your instruction. The master said, ancient Buddhas appearing in the world are beyond count and measure. The disciples continued to ask questions. They didn't know how many generations there had been since the Zen lineage began to be transmitted generation after generation. They asked the master to give them some teaching on this. The master told them that the number of ancient Buddhas who have come to this world until now is infinite and immeasurable. So it is very difficult to calculate a clear number if we try to count them all, because Buddhist truth and enlightenment are actually the truth of all things in the universe. From the very first Buddha until now, there have been countless transmissions. It is quite difficult to count them one by one, but here we will begin with the 7 Buddhas. We often speak of the 7 Buddhas. Much of our current teaching has been passed down from them. Regarding this, we can basically outline the lineage. So starting with the 7 Buddhas, in the past, majestic Kalpa, Vipashian Buddha, Shikian Buddha, and Vishvabhu Buddha. This refers to the past. Our current era is the fortunate Kalpa. The previous one was the majestic Kalpa. In fact, 1,000 Buddhas appeared during the majestic Kalpa. These are the last 3 of those 1,000 Buddhas, meaning the 998th, 999th, and 1,000th Buddhas. They are Vipashin Buddha, also known as Weiwei or Shengguan, Shikin Buddha, and Vishvabhu Buddha, meaning the Buddha of all mastery. These 3 Tathagatas belong to the previous Kalpa. In the current fortunate Kalpa, Krakuchanda Buddha, Kanakamuni Buddha, Kashyapa Buddha, and Shakyamuni Buddha are the 7 Buddhas. There are 4 Buddhas in the fortunate Kalpa. So far, Shakyamuni Buddha is the 4th. There are still 996 Buddhas yet to appear. It is just as His Holiness Jigme Phuntsok taught in the essence of the ocean of aspirations. Regarding the lineage of Buddhas, that is the summary. Now I hope to finish in the next session. So should I read the names of the lineage masters? Originally, I thought about explaining them one by one as there is much to say, but I think you can just read the commentaries and notes yourselves. I will just go through the names of these great lineage masters for everyone to see. First, the transmission from Shakyamuni Buddha. This is the Chan Dharma passed down by the Buddha. It is similar to when we speak of the Dzogchen lineage. We also mention the transmissions of many Tathagatas in the same way. Among the subsequent lineage holders, first Venerable Mahakashyapa. He is the one in meditative absorption on Mount Jizu, famous for holding a flower and smiling. Second, Venerable Ananda, the foremost in hearing, whom we often speak of. Third, Venerable Shanakavasa. He is also called natural robe because he was born wearing a garment. Later, when he was ordained, that garment transformed into a kashaya. He was a truly extraordinary master. Fourth, Venerable Upagupta. We often call him the Great Protector. Remember how he practiced with white and black pebbles. When a negative thought arose, he placed a black pebble, for a positive thought, a white one. After 7 days, they had all become white. For many of us, after 7 days, they might all be black without us even knowing. Some people say, my practice is getting worse and worse. Fifth, Venerable Dratka. Sixth, Venerable Mikchaka. Seventh, Venerable Vasumitra. Vasumitra is also known as Shiyu, friend of the world. Eighth, Venerable Buddhanandi. Ninth, Venerable Buddhamitra. 10th, Venerable Parshva. Parshva stayed in his mother's womb for 60 years. His hair and beard were white at birth. 11th, Venerable Punyayashas. 12th, Bodhisattva Ashvagosa. Ashvagosa was once a non-Buddhist. Later, when he taught the Dharma, even horses and cows listened. These animals were so moved that they developed faith. Thus he is called Master Ashvagosa, horse cry. Many of his treatises exist in both the Han and Tibetan traditions. 13th, Venerable Kapimala. 14th, Bodhisattva Nagarjuna. Some are titled Venerable and some Bodhisattva. It seems there is a distinction in status. Just as yesterday we distinguished clearly between teachers, Khenpos and Khenmos. Nagarjuna and Ashvagosa were masters of Madhyamaka, so they are called Bodhisattva, not Venerable. So there is indeed a distinction in the Chan tradition. I'm not exactly sure why they aren't called Venerable. 15th Venerable Kanadeva, 16th Venerable Rahulata, 17th Venerable Sanganandi. Someone once asked him about the sound of bells ringing in the wind at a temple. Was it the sound of the wind or the sound of the bell? He replied that it was neither the bell nor the wind. It was the mind moving, the sound of the mind. He attained enlightenment through this. 18th, Venerable Gayashata. 19th, Venerable Kumarata. 20th, Venerable Jayata. 21st, Venerable Vasubandhu. 22nd, Venerable Manohita. 23rd, Venerable Haklanayashas. 24th, Venerable Simha. There are stories for all of them, but I won't go into detail. 25th, Venerable Bhashasita. If you are interested, you can read about them yourself. 26th, Venerable Punyamitra. 27th, Venerable Prajnatara. In the Han region, he is considered the first patriarch of Chan. 29th, Grandmaster Hui. He is the second patriarch. 30th, Grandmaster Senkan. He is called Grandmaster, while the ones before were called Bodhisattva. Patriarch Bodhidharma is called Venerable, and the others are called Grandmaster. 31st, Grandmaster Daoshin. 32nd, Grandmaster Hongren. Huineng is the 33rd Patriarch. Counting from the transmission in India, he is the 33rd Patriarch. Counting from the transmission in India, he is the 33rd Patriarch. From the patriarchs above, each has had a specific transmission. You should pass it on from generation to generation, and do not let it be misunderstood or lost. This explains the entire lineage of the Chan tradition. From the patriarchs mentioned above, it has been passed down to the present. At the time of the sixth patriarch Huineng, it was the 33rd generation from India. In the Han region, he is the sixth patriarch. You should also pass this lineage down from generation to generation in the future. Never go against it, and never let it be broken. In the Han Chan tradition, lineage is actually highly valued. Nowadays, many do not give lineage the importance it deserves. In Tibet, we also place great importance on lineage. Without a proper lineage, one can generally only offer guidance or study together, which is fine, but a true transmission of the Dharma cannot be established. Therefore, regarding our study of the Platform Sutra, we can say we are exploring together what the sixth patriarch was like. I cannot claim to be transmitting the Platform Sutra to you. Since I don't have the lineage for the Platform Sutra myself, I am not qualified. So I hope that the Dharma you teach in the future will always have a valid lineage. This point is vital, especially for many of our teachers who have received Tibetan Buddhist lineages. For example, to teach the root stanzas of the middle way, one must first have the lineage. If you want to teach specific precepts, you must have received them from someone else. There are two types of lineage, the simple oral transmission of reading and the lineage of actual instruction. If we want to teach others, it is best if you have heard the explanation from someone else first. Only then are you truly qualified to teach it to others. Merely having the oral reading is barely sufficient, but not truly perfect. Therefore, as we begin our journey of studying the Dharma, don't think anything goes, don't have that attitude. Be strict when strictness is needed, and be precise when precision is required. Thus, regarding the issue of lineage, although Han Chan maintains this generation-by-generation transmission, I noticed some introductions the other day claiming that a certain teacher is the nth generation of a particular school, but whether it was actually passed down that way is not entirely clear. Some might simply claim to be the nth generation successor. This happens in the Han region as well. There are people who don't even have basic Dharma lineages, let alone the Chan lineage, yet they call themselves the nth generation of something. In Tibet now, we also have individuals who consider themselves reincarnations. Such claims are similar and not very good. However, the true transmission of the Buddha's teachings must be treated seriously. I hope that when you attend a class, even if it's just one session in the Tibetan tradition, you must stay for the entire duration. If you don't, your lineage for that teaching is incomplete. So regarding our future lineage, I have explained since the beginning of the Platform Sutra that I do not have the authentic transmission, but my interest in this school started long ago, back when I didn't understand classical Chinese or much about Buddhism. When I first encountered the Han Buddhist tradition, I studied it intensely on my own and felt I could barely manage to understand. I thought if the conditions were right, I would learn it together with everyone. Originally, I wanted to read it through myself, but self-study often gets interrupted, so using you as the object of my study might not be the best approach. But on one hand, I am learning, and on the other, we are learning together. Perhaps the ornament of clear realization is too deep, and I thought it would be good for us to relax a bit together. That was my original idea. But it turns out some terms in the Platform Sutra are quite difficult. No matter how much I look at them, I still can't understand some parts. There might be some mistakes in my explanation as we go, but that's okay. Inevitably, there will be such spots. However, sometimes I feel that after reading ancient and modern Han commentaries, when I combine them with the principles of the secret Mantrayana, I might gain some new insights. When you look at it in the future, maybe some points will have been clarified. In any case, the Sixth Patriarch has finished explaining the entire lineage. In the next session, the Master will pass away and leave his final instructions. We should be able to finish in the next session. All right, we will stop here for today.
Bandara Bandara